Imagine a city full of noise, rickshaws, street vendors, children running across busy roads. And inside that noise lives a man who hears nothing. No laughter, no cries, no conscience. In late 90s Lahore, a man walked among 14 million people completely unnoticed. He wasn't a ghost, he wasn't a shadow, he was Javed Iqbal. And the most terrifying part, he blended in so perfectly. You might have walked past him without ever realizing what lived behind those eyes.
Hello everyone, this is my first time. I'm Tony, and this is my channel.
Did you just say my? Hello guys, I'm the input guy, and it's my channel.
Yours, then do it yourself.
Okay, ours. Okay, so guys, carry on.
Before Lahore feared him, before the confessions in the headlines, there was just a quiet boy named Javed. Born into a large family as the sixth of 8 siblings, he grew up in a home where attention was scarce and emotional warmth was almost non-existent. He wasn't the loud child or the troublesome one. He was the one who sat silently in corners, watching. Teachers called him polite but strangely distant. Family members later admitted he was often overlooked, a child who slipped through the cracks. His father was strict, a man of discipline, not affection. Javed rarely expressed emotion. He didn't argue, he didn't seek comfort. He simply learned to keep everything inside. And psychologists say this kind of quiet emotional drought can twist a person from the inside out. By his early 20s, Javed had become a man no one truly knew. On the surface, he started small businesses, fixed electronics, and moved through Lahore with a hard-working, controlled routine. But underneath that calm image, his isolation deepened. He kept no close friends. He trusted no one. He became secretive, living a life that looked normal from the outside, but felt hollow on the inside. This was also the time he developed a disturbing fascination with street children. At first, he simply watched them, how they slept on footpaths, survived on scraps, and moved through the city unnoticed. He realized something chilling. These children were invisible to society, and for a man who had felt invisible his whole life, this observation planted a dangerous seed. Some reports say he even tried starting a small shelter, framing it as charity, but those close to the situation said he treated it more like an experiment, a place where he could study vulnerability. By the time he moved into his late 20s, the emotional emptiness of his childhood had hardened into something far darker. This was no longer a lonely man. This was the early formation of one of Pakistan's most chilling predators. Javed was not monstrous in appearance. He wore clean clothes, buttoned shirts, polished shoes. He walked with the kind of confidence that only comes from someone who thinks no one will ever question him. He ran a small business, kept his room neat, organized, almost sterile. Visitors said his home felt emotionless, like a place where no one lived, only existed. But that emptiness inside his walls matched something far darker inside his mind. He didn't target the wealthy. He didn't stalk high-profile neighborhoods. He went after the children the world didn't look at twice. Street boys sleeping on footpaths, working at bus stands, washing cars for a few rupees. These children were used to hunger, danger, and distrust. But Javed offered something they rarely heard. Come inside, sit, rest. His voice was soft, almost fatherly. His room was clean. He offered meals, warm water, a moment of safety. And for kids who lived every day in survival mode, that small kindness was enough to lower their guard.
Most of the boys were between 8 to 15-year-olds surviving through odd jobs. They were the kind of children people often walked past without noticing. Children who rarely had someone to talk, let alone protect them. Police later said tragedy was even deeper. Many families didn't even know their sons were missing because poverty has already separated them from home long before Javed found them.
Javed's cruelty wasn't chaotic. He wasn't impulsive. He was controlled, almost disturbingly calm. He kept a meticulous diary documenting his actions in cold, matter-of-fact language. Not with emotion, with procedure. He wrote like he was filing paperwork, not describing human lives. Investigators who later read his notes described feeling chills, as if the pages held no guilt, no anger, only calculation.
One of the final entries within Iqbal's journal was, "My count has reached 100. He was a handsome 16-year-old Bhutan boy. He came from Peshawar. With the grace of God, my mission is complete. Tears roll down my cheeks. I will make sure that my message and my mission reaches the world."
This was a man obsessed with power, a man who believed he was righting a personal wrong by punishing the world. Former officers described his room as hauntingly normal. There were no chaotic signs of violence, no visible struggle, no panic. Everything was placed with purpose: a table, a mat, cleaning supplies lined up like a laboratory. It was this controlled environment that made the crimes even more disturbing. There was no rage, no frenzy, just a man carrying out a routine, like a job. In December 1999, a letter arrived at a newspaper office. It wasn't a plea, it wasn't an apology, it was a confession. Written in large, steady handwriting, Javed detailed everything: where he lived, what he did, why he did it. He challenged police, almost mocking them. Catch me if you can. For a country not used to serial killers, the shockwaves were immediate. Schools closed early. Parents kept children inside. Lahore turned paranoid overnight.
In his letter, he confessed to assault and murders of 100 young boys. He strangled, dismembered, and then dissolved remains in acid and threw it at the local lake to destroy any evidence. When investigators spoke to neighbors, most of them said he was very quiet, not rude, not friendly, just distant. Some neighbors said he rarely spoke, and even then his voice was soft and controlled, almost rehearsed. A few people recalled seeing street boys walking into his house, but because many locals assumed he was offering work or food, they didn't think much of it at a time. One neighbor said, "He seemed strict, but never dangerous. We never heard shouting, never saw chaos." Another described him as a man who kept his curtain closed, even at the daytime, saying his house felt too clean, too quiet, like no one lived there. Despite living in a very busy area, no one saw him socializing. No guest, no laughter, just the occasional child stepping in and never being seen again. The neighbor's silence wasn't intentional. Javed simply blended into the background so perfectly that no one ever questioned him. And if he himself did not confess his crime, maybe the world would never have known. During investigation, police found photographs of victims in plastic bags, neatly labeled with names and ages on handwritten pamphlets. 2 vats of acid with victims remained inside for police to find inside his house, and a note claiming that they were deliberately not being disposed of so that authorities would find them and believed him. In his letters, Iqbal also stated that with his crime completed, he now planned to drown in the Ravi River. After unsuccessfully searching the river with nets, the manhunt began. When police launched the largest manhunt in Pakistani history, 4 accomplices, teenage boys who had shared Iqbal's 3-bedroom, were arrested in Sohawa. Within a day, one of them died into police custody, a post-mortem suggesting that a force has been used against him. The police said he jumped on his own.
When the manhunt intensified, Javed didn't run. He didn't hide. He didn't disguise himself. Instead, he calmly walked into the office of Daily Jang newspaper and said 4 words: "I am Javed Iqbal." Officers said he looked relaxed. His clothes were pressed. His hair was combed. His voice steady. That emotionless call unsettled even hardened investigators.
When asked why he did it, Iqbal claimed that the motive for committing the murders was his anger over an injustice at the hand of authorities. They had arrested him on charge relating to an act of sodomy against a young runaway boy in 1990s. Though no charges were brought in relation to this offense, Iqbal's mother had been forced to watch his decline before suffering a fatal heart attack. According to Iqbal, his mother's death watching his arrest had broken a hell over him. He therefore resolved to make 100 mothers suffer and cry for their sons, as his late mother had been forced to for him.
The judge delivered a sentence unlike any other in Pakistani history. A symbolic punishment meant to bring justice to children who never had any. But before the sentence could be carried out, Javed Iqbal was found dead in his prison cell alongside an accomplice. The official report said suicide. Many believed otherwise. Some said inmates did it. Others whispered about officials. Whatever the truth, one thing was clear: Javed never faced the consequences he described with such pride. While the world focused on Javed's cold smile, his diary, his confession, we forget the real story: children who deserved protection. Children who were failed by society long before Javed found them. Children who should have had futures, not footnotes. Their names are mostly unknown, their stories mostly unheard, but they were real. They mattered. Some lesser-known facts. 1. He kept Polaroid photos of every victim, but for documentation, not memories. He claimed they were for record-keeping. 2. He kept a diary written in cold, clinical language, not emotional, more like a scientist observing experiments. 3. He openly challenged police in his confession letter. He wrote, "You cannot catch me alive." 4. He tried to adopt street children earlier in life. Police believe this was part of how he learned their vulnerabilities. 5. He often wore clean, well-pressed clothes. He was obsessed with appearing neat and respectable.
6. His childhood was extremely lonely. He grew up withdrawn, isolated, and obsessed with power and control. 7. He had planned to write an autobiography. He even told the investigators that the world will understand him one day. 8. Some investigators believe he wanted fame more than escape. His surrender at the newspaper office seemed staged for attention. 9. His prison death remained controversial. The official report says suicide, but many believe he was murdered by inmates or officials. His death timing remains suspicious. 10. He was surprisingly soft-spoken. Officers said he spoke calmly, almost politely, even when describing his horrific acts. 11. Javed wrote a second letter that was never fully released publicly. Officials kept parts of it sealed. 12. He tried to present himself as a social reformer, that he was exposing society neglects of street children, like it was just some kind of experiment. 13. Prison staff said he showed zero emotion in custody. 14. He stated he surrendered to the newspaper office because he feared for his life and was concerned that the police would kill him. 15. There was also a film based on a notorious serial killer titled Javed Iqbal, The Untold Story of a Serial Killer. Follows the trial of Javed Iqbal. Scheduled for release on 28 Jan 2022. The film faced ban from the Punjab government and the Central Board of Film Censors. It was removed from cinemas a day prior to its release due to its portrayal of the government and police. After public backlash to the ban and the support of several actors for the film, it was finally released on 2 June 2023. Evil isn't always loud. Sometimes it's calm, it's polite, it's organized. Javed didn't terrorize Pakistan because of brutality. He terrified the country because he showed how invisible some victims are until it's too late. Let me know your thoughts below. Was Javed born with darkness, or was he shaped by a world full of neglected children and ignored suffering? I'll see you.
I
Yeah, we see you in the next deep dive. Sayonara!